What I'm about to do is I'm going to be analyzing two of the best players of all time in Warcraft 3 and a game that they played yesterday. In it, you will probably learn something about Warcraft 3 as well, but I am going to be leaning more towards the high-level analysis. Lyn and Happy should need no introduction. They are the two best players in the world for their respective races. Happy, probably the best Warcraft 3 player right now. Lyn, best Orc. Let's check it out. I've heard through the grapevine from my chat on Discord that Lyn has a new approach to the Orc versus Undead matchup, and I'm excited to see what it is. I heard a little bit, but let's see it for ourselves. The map here is going to be Amazonia. The reason I'm not watching with game sounds is because I will be talking at the same time as our lovely Neo from Back to Warcraft. And if you want to watch it, I can put the link in the chat to where you can watch this video with commentary. But since I'm going to be commentating it myself, it'll be without game sound, but I've got the lovely tunes of World of Warcraft OST running on the background, so we've got some white noise to be a backdrop for analysis overdrive. So you'll find that most players on this map open up with lightning shield creeping by presenting three units next to each other and aggroing the renegade wizard. He will be incentivized to cast a lightning shield on the middle unit in order to hurt your friends, but you will turn that lightning shield against them and damage the creeps. But because the source caster is the renegade wizard, he is the one that gets experience, aka nobody gets experience, if he is last hit. So you use the lightning shield against the creeps in order to expedite creeping, but you must be the last hitter. Both players did this without fail. They get a quick level 1.9, they finish the 1-1-1 camp to get the level 2.1, then they finish the middle kobold camp to go to level 2.7 each. They have an identical creep route. Happy trying to use his trademark micro to get the surround there on the opening grunt. The build here by Lyn was the new style single grunt into headhunter build on tier 1. This means you have only 6 peons on wood rather than 7, which is 1 less than what you would like, but you compensate for it by the early war mail, and maybe you'll add another peon when you get to tier 2 to help out with some wood investments. Normal tech does not need extra peons on wood than these 6 with the early war mail, but if you want to get a lot of headhunter attack upgrades, then you're going to need that extra peon for sure. So we'll see what route he goes with. But for now, he's got the 6 peon, 1 grunt, mass headhunter style. He's got about 4 or 5 headhunters out right now. And we'll see what he's going to be looking to do. Now, it is very important for Orc to prevent Death Knight level 3. More so than it is important for him to reach Farseer level 3. Farseer level 3 upgrades his feral spirits, his summons. They get more health, more damage, and they're even a little faster. But letting Death Knight get level 3 gives him a higher level Death Coil, which actually allows him to much more easily pick off units. And right now he's only level 2. Lyn, he knows he might lose units here. In fact, I think he will lose the headhunter that's walking to the top left right here, and the one that's walking on the right. But if you're facing a DK level 3 with full mana, you're going to lose several headhunters for sure. And more cheaply too. Because in this event, yes, Lyn is going to lose the HH. He's going to try to deny it to creeps successfully. No XP to Happy. Still level 2.7. Meanwhile, he used the distraction of the escaping double headhunter team to get level 3.4 himself. So that's really cool. Happy did just find the second headhunter. So the total tally of deaths is 2 headhunters. But he gained 0.7 worth of level from 2.7 to 3.4. Well, let's say he gained 0.6 from it, because he killed 1 ghoul with chain lightning. That's where he got some XP, and then he finished the camp. Happy immediately turns up the pressure again by coming in with the Dark Ranger Tavern hero, which trains a lot faster, obviously, than an altar hero. He's going to try to do auto attacks, kiting, and then coils to finish off more headhunters. Ghoul for the block, not trying to get the full surround, just doing a little bit of movement blocking. Ghoul gets away, he does a level 1 coil on a headhunter, and it dies. Second ghoul also tries to run away. Lyn actually has a wolf following 1 ghoul, and he has got a wolf and a farseer following another ghoul. I'm going to look at Happy Supply to see if those ghouls actually go down. meanwhile, a Hex, Speed Scroll, and Heal Salve send this grunt to safety. And I do see that Happy lost a goal to the Feral Spirit, but he kills another Headhunter, so lots of casualties on both sides. Generally, I always feel like this favors Undead, but maybe it's not true. I feel like it favors them because they're making skeletons and you're not creeping, and I feel like somehow you're more creeping dependent for your second hero at least. Not for your first, but for your second. So during this time, Undead wants to slow down Shadow and or TC, whereas Orc really just wants to creep their Shadow and or TC. Dark Ranger can creep pretty okay, but she really excels at doing this in particular. Constantly killing Headhunters, converting them to skeletons, and then trying to get more results. Meanwhile, though, Happy is losing some ghouls as well. I must say, slightly unforced error. Well, let's say forced error. It's a forced error because Lin is applying pressure and he's defending at the same time. But not all of those ghouls needed to die, let's say. Right? Because he could just put them behind. And then Farseer would have to overcommit like this. And then Farseer could be stuck. But there's so little juice left on the ghouls that actually this becomes a rather threatening maneuver by Lin. The Acolytes are off mining, the ghouls are off mining and dying, so this base trade that is normally the epitome of suicide for Orc, it's actually working out really fine for Lin. And I feel like the game is already kind of won at this point for Lin. His decision to chase those ghouls to wherever it may lead and to do a base trade against Happy that's trying to squeeze maximum value out of his DK Dark Ranger push while he's relatively weak in terms of unit count. Just really trying to get by on Dark Minions and Skeletons from Rod of Necromancy. Just 2 heroes and a Dream, you know? He's looking to kill Headhunters. Every time ghouls drop low, he sends them home and they're gonna go heal on Blight. And Lin says, no, I'm not gonna let them heal for free. Yes, there could be a Nerubian, maybe I'll get surrounded, but I've got a pretty good idea of how many ghouls you're roughly gonna have, because Undeads tend to save money for Slaughterhouse, Statues, Black Citadel, and then eventually Lich as well. They're gonna have all those spendings. Oh, look at that, interesting. They're gonna have all those spendings, so I don't think you have 10 ghouls at home sitting right now. I think you're playing a very tight ship. You're running a very tight ship of your economy. And you're going to have just a few ghouls and they're hurt. I remember that. So he chased, he killed those. So that's nice. Not overly respecting the reputation of the Undead base. You know, never attack an Undead base. This can be exploited by Undeads by being extra greedy. And nice job. So this is definitely a departure from what's normal. Normally, Lin and Orc meta was get a Bestiary, get 1 or 2 Raiders, get a Kodo. Hitman goes Kodo right away with Lightning Orb. Others, they get Raiders first, focus, sometimes a Wyvern into other things, right? Many different variations, but it's always with the Bestiary. I don't know if it's... Oh, look at that, 2nd barracks. I heard about that. I don't know if it's because Lin had a good early game with the amount of ghouls that he killed, or if he's going to do this every game, but this is so different from before. Any Orc dreams of being able to go for an early 2nd barracks and applying some pressure through making a tiny Great Hall expansion. Any Orc dreams of being able to get an early expo and defending it. The most successful Orc meta of all time was based on early expansion. And in recent times, it's been much more 50-50 Orc Undead. And that is 1 versus 1 base. Ask a human player how much they like 1 versus 1 base against Undead. The answer? They won't like it. It's almost suicide. But Orc has been pretty much defaulting to that because they didn't find any way to keep an early expansion alive against the immediate follow-up push from Lich and Orb of Corruption. So the concept here that seems to be materializing: Farseer, power fighting, power creeping, non-stop Headhunter production, Shadow 2nd, tier 3, no Bestiary, no fortified defenses, and 1 attack upgrade only for Zerkers, not 2. get to tier 3, squeeze out a tiny great hole as quickly as possible, lightning orb on Farseer, and double barracks headhunters. So did you guys notice that Lin's lumber dropped to 40 as it does now? Also after he tiny great hole expanded with a burrow, it dropped to 40. He doesn't have a lot of peons working on wood. So there's no way that he could have afforded a bestiary and hit the same timing of an expansion. There's no way that he could afford a second attack upgrade for Berserkers. And while he did get the Berserker Master Training upgrade for the bonus HP, and he presumably has Troll Regeneration upgrade, he couldn't even have afforded the Kodos special upgrade, which is taking their damage boost from 10% to 20%. Plus, Kodos cost 60 wood. It's quite a lot. 50% more wood, relatively speaking, to the food that they cost than a headhunter. So, just a lot of Zerkers, with gold being the primary money fountain for Lin through those two bases, which he will then spend on lightning orbs and mana for his heroes, so he can keep healing and try to kind of rival the sustain of Undead with those obsidian statues that are pumping away. Note that while statues should be a priority focus target, Lin is not even doing that. Statues offer sustenance of health and mana. It means that Undead heroes will still be relevant late in the fight. But by dealing with the statues first, he would take maximum DPS from ghouls all fight long until the statues are dead. So instead, he decided to focus on the ghouls first, which are relatively fragile but have high damage output, especially against berserkers. So he dealt with those first, then eventually he's going to deal with the statues to suppress the long-term sustenance of the undead heroes. Now with his third hero, even if he loses one, he's got several others, and he had a couple of war stamps. Zerkers focus down the destroyers, and Lin's gold is piling up, but because he has 2 barracks, his headhunters can be replaced a lot easier. With the amount of headhunter losses that he has had so far, he would have about 1 or 2 now. And what's interesting, if you make non-stop units on the double from 2 unit production buildings that are different from each other, aka a barracks and a bestiary, if you have an expansion, you've always got enough money to make units from both. If your opponent focuses one type of unit only, for instance, only raiders or only headhunters, and he leaves the rest up, then eventually you'll be left with an imbalance amount of units of that kind. So sometimes people ask me in Orc versus Night Elf, why do you have so many shamans? Right? It's because I did a barracks Spirit Lodge expansion with 6 grunts and 2 shamans. And then I kept making each. And my opponent keeps killing the grunts. Very rude. So eventually I have 2 grunts and 8 shamans. And I have 2 armor upgrades for my grunts. And armor upgrades don't translate to shamans. So why do you have so many shamans? Well, there's nothing else I could make. I only have 1 barracks. And a StarCraft player may ask, why do you have only 1 barracks? Lol, are you Bronze League noob? And to that I say maybe. But that's the meta. And why is it the meta? It's because you pretty much can't afford 2 barracks usually. Your expansion may or may not come up. Orc expansion takes 2.5 minutes to finish. It then takes 4 minutes until it paid itself back. So planning down a second barracks now, while also having a secondary unit via the Spirit Lodge or via the Bestiary, well, that's 3 unit production buildings, and I may only have money for 1.5 of them, because I just lost my expansion. I overinvested in infrastructure, and you need the raiders for micro, right? Well, wrong, says Lin. Have we not had many metas recently that include Orb of Lightning? But it's an expensive ad. It doesn't have as much clear value as Orb of Corruption, which is just damage amp. Orb of Venom, damage amp, right? Orb of Fire is regen, debuff for the opponent, so again, damage amp. And Lightning Orb, it does a bit of damage, but it's mostly lockdown. And it's percentage based, a chance. It may or may not happen. So it kind of feels unreliable to say, I'm going to be an Orb of Lightning spammer, and that's how I win the game. So like the Orb feels like an unreliable tool, especially as a non-Blade Master user, which allows the blade suddenly to attack air. You know, he has it on his Farseer. And Save Orcas has long wanted me to try this, actually. The Tiny Great Hole Fast Expo against Undead. He's been trying to have me work on this build. I think 2 barracks has come up as well, and so has Orb of Lightning. But it needs a lot of training and nuance to get the balance right. And I will say Lin had a good early game. Right, so who knows how this would look if he had lost 3 headhunters or 4 and only killed 1 ghoul. Instead of however it went now, which was like mining denial, 5 ghoul deaths, also lost 5 headhunters and a grunt. So he definitely disrupted Happy as well. And it's never easy. You see, like, even just 3 heroes can pressure the Berserkers. He's killing unit after unit without using any units. Now Orb of Lightning procced, but it has reduced duration on the heroes. A statue pretty much stopped in its tracks. That's a prime target. He's hitting it. There we go. Purge. It's amazing. Statue can't move almost. Right? So that's a statue kill. Orb of Lightning on a hero, it's a uncomfortable semi-route. It's like a slow. You'll see it soon if he hits it. But, you know, this time it didn't hit. God giveth and God taketh. So now what does he do? Finally, there comes the bestiary. And note, no fortified defenses, no armor upgrade, no second attack upgrade. He's getting another Voodoo Lounge. He's getting a bestiary. It's just, I don't think it's going to be a raider. Raider tends to walk in front of the army, get nuked, and then the undead just leaves. Right? You're not going to get many lightning orb proc chances. So the raider dies before he can make his lockdown matter. I think it's going to be a Kodo beast. Just more damage amp. Can eat 1 unit maybe. Can become a focus target. It's a damage sponge, 1000 health. But now the army is big enough for Lin, probably, to start kind of winning this fight. He will still lose Berserkers. He's losing a bunch of them. And every Berserker becomes a skeleton. And the skeletons are even killing more headhunters. It's the Walking Dead where you don't puncture the head. And then you take a little sleep in the tomb. Like in Game of Thrones, those smart Season 8 story writing SMH. But Happy also drops to 36 health. To 36 supply. Lin is now at 47, which means he's getting 20 gold per second again. Instead of the 14 he was getting during low upkeep. So that's kind of a blessing in disguise. He is getting Ensnare. He is going for the Raiders, okay. He favors the lockdown. Maybe it will even be time to start hero focusing, right? Note how none of Undead heroes have Invul anymore, or TP. So War Stomp, in comes maybe the Hex, but he doesn't want to because Destroyer's still there with Devour Magic. But once the Raider with Ensnare comes out, that's going to be lights out. Unless Happy can snipe a hero, Lin will have solved a map that I find practically unwinnable, Amazonia. And he did it in a good intellectual, good execution manner. So really, really impressive. I'm excited to see what is going to happen in the rest of the Show Cup. But this is a great start. I feel like his early game decisions and mid game were good. And his late game battle plan, I think, is sound. I think it's a sound battle plan. Maybe he wouldn't be able to hold the expansion if he had a bad early game. But that shouldn't be a deterrent for playing this. It just underscores how having a bad early start is bad. And having a good early start is good. And your start may influence whether you're going to win or lose. That's normal. A bad start in a marathon is also bad. They're now ahead of you. Can you outpace them? Maybe, but you are starting behind. It's the same thing here, right? And it's a little different because, in theory, outside of the psychological part in a marathon, you could run the same way, whether you're in front or behind someone. Though, again, there is a psychological aspect. But in games like this, there can be a snowball effect, where if you are ahead, you can leverage it for exponentially more advantage as the game goes on. Whereas in a marathon, you run. You just run. Right? There's no, because you ran fast to points, you got a power-up potion that makes you run better afterwards. If you're the first to cross the line, you get a power-up potion. Here you do. You get the earlier Death Call, you get the earlier Wolf. So early game matters more here than in a marathon, logically. And it already matters in a marathon. So of course early game matters. Still, I think the strategy is very sound after this 5-minute segue. The Tiny Great Hole early expansion, I like it. He's still losing frightfully many headhunters to just heroes and Egyptian statues and flyers. Almost lost the Shadow Hunter, but it's working. 1 lightning orb right now. I even heard reports of multiple lightning orbs in other games, but we'll see when that becomes a topic for discussion. But for now, with the amount of time that Lin has had an expansion, nothing but respect for how Lin played, and actually also for how Happy played. Guys, how many of us would stand a chance fighting against someone that has had an expansion for more than 10 minutes, and we didn't? Like, it wasn't as close as it could be, and Happy ends up losing, but some people may be like, should you even have a chance when you don't have Expo for that long? Well, yeah, if you keep touching base with your opponent and you keep connecting with their army and keep killing army, then that can be a powerful compensation against the superior income that they have, because you're trading better. That was really impressive by Happy. But it's Lin that will take the first map with this new style. GG.